The drama surrounding Prince Archie's birth is not just a tale of royal intrigue, it's a case study in how not to handle public trust when you're part of one of the most watched families on Earth. It should have been a joyous occasion, a moment of unity, celebration, and even modernization for the British monarchy. But what we got instead was a whirlwind of secrecy, misdirection, and unanswered questions. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry took what should have been a moment steeped in royal tradition and turned it into one of the most bizarre and confusing episodes in modern royal history. And as the dust continues to settle, the cracks they left behind only grow wider. From the very beginning, the timeline of Archie's birth raised red flags. Meghan was said to have gone into labor early in the morning, yet the palace waited nearly 12 hours to release any official word. That's not just a delay, that's a decision, a deliberate one. Because by the time the media was informed that she was in labor, Archie had already been born. Which begs the question, why the secrecy? If this was just a couple wanting a bit of privacy, why mislead the press, and by extension the public? What makes the deception worse is that Harry and Meghan's own team had previously promised transparency. They said the media would be alerted when Meghan went into labor. That was their commitment. But when the time came, the silence was deafening. When reporters tried to get answers, they were met with vague statements from the palace that deflected blame onto the media for misinterpreting timelines. This wasn't just a communication error. It was a calculated act of control over a narrative they never wanted to share honestly. One of the few journalists who dared to push back on this narrative was Dan Wootton, then an executive editor at The Sun. He smelled something rotten from day one and managed to get Buckingham Palace to answer 8 direct questions on the recorded, almost unheard-of occurrence. That alone should tell you how high the stakes were behind the scenes. The palace doesn't bend easily, yet here they were, doing damage control over something as supposedly straightforward as a royal birth. Wootton's investigation led to an even more troubling possibility that the delay in announcing the birth wasn't about privacy at all, but rather a carefully coordinated PR play. According to him, the announcement's timing conveniently lined up with 8 a.m. U.S. broadcast slots, especially CBS This Morning, which just so happens to be co-hosted by Gayle Kinga, close friend of Meghan's. Coincidence? Maybe, but in the context of everything else, it feels more like part of a much bigger strategy. A strategy that prioritized American media over royal protocol. This isn't about nitpicking every little move Meghan and Harry made. This is about transparency. When you're a member of the British royal family, especially one who receives taxpayer money, there are expectations, standards, traditions. You don't get to cherry-pick which parts of royal life you embrace and which ones you rewrite. You don't get to stage intimate photo ops and release curated documentaries while preaching about privacy. That's not privacy. That's manipulation. And this manipulation backfired badly. The inconsistencies sparked a wave of speculation that refused to die down. Meghan's baby bump became its own tabloid phenomenon. Videos surfaced online showing her stomach apparently changing shape dramatically from one public appearance to the next. Some moments even appeared to show the bump folding unnaturally when she sat down. Whether these were tricks of the camera or signs of something more, the couple's refusal to address any of it only fueled the fire. Even when journalists dared to raise the question of whether a surrogate had been used or, if a prosthetic bump was involved, they were dismissed or mocked. Camilla Tominey, a respected editor at The Telegraph, once responded to such a question with disdain, suggesting it wasn't even worth acknowledging. But that's the problem. When journalists treat inconsistencies as beneath their attention, they stop doing their jobs. Journalism isn't about protecting people from uncomfortable questions. It's about asking them, especially when those people are public figures, reshaping a soda institution. Then came the infamous twerking video, supposedly released during the time Meghan was in labor. In it, she appears relaxed, happy, and nowhere near the condition of a woman about to give birth. It didn't just raise eyebrows. It made people question everything they thought they knew about the timeline of Archie's birth. Even people who hadn't bought into conspiracy theories began asking, what's going on here? The birth announcement itself wasn't traditional. There was no easel outside Buckingham Palace, no press call, just a sterile Instagram post. One of the most anticipated royal births in modern times was introduced to the world via social media. And during the brief window between that post and the palace's announcement, reporters once again asked if the baby had been born. Palace officials denied it, while already knowing Archie had arrived. That's not a PR misstep, that's lying. The Sussexes continued to lean on privacy as their excuse, but privacy isn't a bulletproof shield, especially not when your child is in the direct line of succession. The monarchy is not a private business, it's a public institution. Every move matters. Every word carries weight, and every omission chips away at trust. What's worse is how the palace allowed itself to be dragged into the chaos. Buckingham Palace has long stood as a symbol of order and tradition. But in the wake of Meghan and Harry's bizarre communication strategy, it looked disorganized and reactionary. Emails were reportedly unsent, announcements were delayed by technical issues. These aren't the kinds of excuses you expect from a centuries-old institution with a full communications team. They sounded like cover stories, bad ones. Even the photo call introducing Archie to the world felt wrong. It was carefully staged inside Windsor Castle, with no outside media and no spontaneity. The timing, 12:40 p.m. UK time, or exactly 7:40 a.m. New York time, just in time for American morning TV again. Don Wootton didn't miss that detail either, and went straight to the palace with it. Their answer, a cold denial claiming the time was scheduled around a family visit to the Queen. But again, the explanation felt hollow because nothing else around this birth had made sense either. And then came the question no one could get a straight answer to. Where was Archie actually born? In Harry's interview, he gushed about Meghan's strength during labor, but refused to say where it happened. No official confirmation, no hospital name, no royal tradition of naming the attending physician. Just silence. And in that silence, speculation thrived. Royal birth announcements have always included key facts: hospital, doctor, time, weight. None of that was clear with Archie. Instead, we got a mishmash of social posts and delayed press releases. In some reports, Meghan was still in labor. In others, the baby had already arrived. When reporters pushed for answers, palace officials got defensive. One even claimed the announcement was delayed due to an email not going out in time. In a palace staffed by professional communicators, that excuse didn't just sound flimsy, it sounded absurd. In their attempt to modernize the monarchy, Harry and Meghan broke something vital: the public's trust. And once that trust is gone, the vacuum left behind fills with theories, rumors, and doubt. Was a surrogate used? Was the bump fake? Was the baby even present during that photo call? These theories didn't appear out of thin air. They were born from unanswered questions and inconsistent timelines. And instead of extinguishing the flames, Harry and Meghan poured gasoline. This was never about attacking Meghan. It was never about race or class or privilege. It was about truth, plain, unfiltered truth. And despite all the fanfare and the glossy PR spins, one thing remains painfully clear: the truth still hasn't been told. The public was misled. The palace was complicit. And what should have been a beautiful royal milestone became a riddle wrapped in a scandal, buried under 1,000 no comments. So, what do you think happened? Was this just a case of poor communication? Or is there something far deeper and more calculated at play? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next twist in the royal saga.